Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the grand launching of the DDTC Indonesian Tax Manual 2023 with the title Uncovering Indonesian Tax Regulation Through a Digital Platform. My name is Sefty and I will be the host for today. The wonderful founders of DDTC, Bapak Darussalam and Bapak Danis Satriadi, the managing partner of DDTC, Bapak David Hamzah Damian, the senior advisor of DDTC, Bapak Romi Irawan, and the director of fiscal research and advisory, Bapak Bawono Kristiaji. Our special guests, we have Simon Hofstadter, the officer of Austrian Tax Administration, Thomas Van He, the partner of Audit Tax Consulting in Dubai, and Rishabh Agarwal, a chartered accountant from India, and our most valued participants who are joining in this event today. First of all, I'm going to check with my colleague how many participants are joining in this virtual Zoom meeting room. Let me check how many. It's 2, 6, and 3, is it? Yeah. 265 participants, and it's raising gradually. Great, and I would like to say thank you very much for your participation. Well, I'm going to share with you our agenda for today within these 2 hours. First, of course, I've been welcoming you all just now. Second, we will watch and listen to a video of the launching of the DDTC Indonesian Tax Manual 2023. Third, we will listen to a talk show with our speakers of today, who are the contributors to the ITM 2023. They are Bapak David, Bapak Romi, and Bapak Aji. And fourth, there will be a demonstration, or it's an introduction of the features of the freshly new Indonesian Tax Manual 2023. And fifth, we will invite our special guests, Simon, Thomas, and Rishabh, to share their thoughts and their insights regarding what we have during the event today. And last, there will be one of the things that you are waiting for the most, I guess. This is the door prize session. And the door prize is 1 year free subscription to our platform, perpajakan.id. During the talk show, if you have any question regarding the manual, you can submit your questions through a Google form. My colleague will send you the link through the Zoom chat. You may find the link there, and our speaker would love to answer your questions later on. Ladies and gentlemen, we will watch a video which tells us the story behind this ITM. We know that the dynamics of tax regulations have been rapidly changing as always. Then these changes, what should we do, and how can tax professionals respond to the dynamic of the tax regulations, and what is the response from the DDTC as one of the leading tax institutions in Indonesia? Without any further ado, please enjoy the video of the launching of DDTC Indonesian Tax Manual 2023.
In the last 3 years, the dynamics of tax regulations have significantly changed. The COVID-19 pandemic has served as a wake-up call for the Indonesian government to quickly respond to its impacts, one of which was the implementation of tax incentives for economic recovery. This policy was stated in a government regulation in lieu of Law No. 1 of 2020, published on March 31st, 2020. Additionally, tax laws and regulations were amended again with the issuance of Law No. 11 of 2020 concerning job creation on November 2nd, 2020. Then, tax laws and regulations were further amended with the issuance of Law No. 7 of 2021 concerning the harmonization of tax regulations on October 29th, 2021. In order to synergize the decentralization of central government with local governments, Law Number 1 of 2022 concerning financial relations between the central government and local governments was issued on January 5, 2022. Finally, on December 30, 2022, the Job Creation Law was amended by the issuance of government regulation in lieu of Law Number 2, 2022. These developments are indicated by the issuance of several government regulations to comply with the provisions of the tax law. The dynamics and complexity of tax regulations need to be followed and complied with, requiring society to improve its knowledge, skills, and abilities amidst these complexities. Any changes in tax regulations will have implications for tax professionals in terms of improving their knowledge and skills in the tax field. Tax professionals need tax literature that is comprehensive, complete, practical, easy to understand, and always up to date. Since 2007, DDTC has been committed to eliminating information asymmetry in taxation. DDTC have published various tax literature in the form of books, working papers, Inside Tax magazine, newsletters, Indonesian taxation quarterly reports, and policy notes, which are also supplemented through DDTC News and the complete tax regulation document on perpajakan.id. Now, all new regulations and latest tax issues are centralized and presented in one ebook, DDTC Indonesian Tax Manual. This guidebook comprises general normative legal reviews on various areas of taxation, ranging from the national to international and subnational levels, and is delivered in English to reduce language barriers for international society to access Indonesian tax literacy. This tax literature is intended for foreigners, tax professionals, foreign investors, tax academics, and tax authorities.
It's cool. I can understand the Indonesian tax system from this literature. Say goodbye to the old ways and long processes. Now I can easily find the latest tax regulation updates for companies quickly. Thanks a lot. This tax literature is my consideration in investing funds. A very trusted guidebook. Very helpful tax research process. The right literature to improve tax literacy.
This text literature has the following advantages: content that is updated bi-weekly, accessible on a digital platform, and connected with DDTC News and the tax regulation database platform. DDTC Indonesian Tax Manual serves as the first and primary guideline for navigating the Indonesian tax system. Let's work together to eliminate asymmetric tax information. With DDTC ITM, understanding tax regulations has become easier than ever before. DDTC sets the standards and beyond.
Well, we already have Bapak David, Bapak Romi, and Bapak Aji sitting next to each other, just beside me. With their expertise in the field of taxation, the three of them are part of the contributors to the ITM. And I believe that wherever you are now, you are ready to listen to what they are going to share with us today. Right. So good afternoon, Bapak David, Bapak Romi, and Bapak Aji.
Good afternoon.
Are you all excited about launching the ITM? Please rate from 1 to 10. In which number are you? Are you excited? 9 to 1 to 10?
10, of course.
10, of course.
11.
Wonderful. And
I don't know, 17. Like my dear.
that's great. It's more than the ratio that I just gave him. And wonderful, really great knowing that because we believe that we're all enthusiastic about what we are going to launch today. Well, let me start by asking our speakers a very fundamental question, that is, why is the title of today's talk show Uncovering Indonesian Tax Regulations? What does uncovering exactly mean? And I'm going to ask this question to Bapak David. And could you please share with us, please?
Okay, that's a good question, Sefty. Most of the tax professionals or the tax stakeholders in Indonesia, they understand that the complexity of the Indonesian tax regulations. There's a lot of cross-referencing between one regulation to another. So uncover means we are going to uncover. We have uncovered the complexity into simple. So it's like a hidden gems that we can simplify the process of understanding and extracting information from the tax regulations into a simpler language with all the summaries and cross-referencing into our other platform like perpajakan.id. We keep it simple, and that's why we call it a manual. Because we wanted to make a platform that is easy for everyone to understand the complexity of Indonesian tax regulations and keep it practical.
Yeah, that's a good vision. It means that making an ebook as one manual that is simpler and then straight to the purpose or the topic and the point that we are going to find, right? So we can just easily find any regulations from this manual, is it? Okay, well, what is also great about the ITM is that DDTC will update this manual bi-weekly. And what will you say about that?
Yeah, the bi-weekly update is intended to catch up with the fast-moving Indonesian tax regulations, because the target of the tax ratios, the government revenue and expenditure is heavily dependent on the tax revenue.
Right.
That's why there's a lot of regulations that will keep being issued by the Indonesian government. As we all are aware that some of the implementing regulations of the government regulations that have been issued lately has not been enacted. And therefore, there will be a lot of regulations. So we keep it to be updated bi-weekly because we need the time to translate the process using language that tax professionals could understand. Not only using translation application of software, but we use our professionals to translate and make our ITM, Indonesian Tax Manual, to be more precise and accurate.
Right. So we start from the point that our regulations is basically rapidly changing. So we have to be updated as always. Right. Then what will be the most valuable features or content that make DDTC ITM really advantageous, and why is this manual written in English?
Well, first, the manual is written in English because for three objectives, basically, is because we want it to be friendly, user-friendly, because the stakeholders for Indonesian tax can understand the English language better in using the Indonesian tax regulations. Second, we want to be a global benchmark. A global benchmark in terms of the other academics in other countries can also look into our system, into our regulations, and they can benchmark with the other countries as well. And then why is it in English? Then because we want to integrate with the perpajakan.id, that we are going to cross-reference with the Indonesian Tax Manual. The cross-referencing means that the perpajakan.id tax regulations database will also be available in English.
Right.
So that's how the ecosystem of the Indonesian Tax Manual will be an integrated platform in understanding the Indonesian tax regulations.
Wow, that's really thoughtful because we are giving all what you really need from reliable sources. That's really interesting. And perhaps we can also hear from Bapak Romi, what will you say about the purpose or purposes of having the ITM in English?
Okay, at least from the broader perspective, I believe that as already mentioned by Pak David, maybe we try to maybe provide the guidelines in universal language, and then also from the broader perspective, I believe that if the whole tax society or the tax authority could maybe could access it maybe in the real time and always get to an update regarding the regulation, it will be benefit to them. And also I would like to raise the issue that on how this guidance maybe will bring Indonesia into significant role. So, for instance, maybe if we talk about cases in transfer pricing, maybe talking about intangible cases or maybe loan cases. If we talk about intangible cases, we always refer to maybe Maruti case in India,
Right.
and maybe also. About loan, we always talk about Chevron cases in Australia. So we're expecting by developing this guidance, we would like to bring the opportunity to Indonesia, because we believe that Indonesia has a lot of good decision, interesting cases that maybe need to be best market. And I will say that in the next following years, we will hear that maybe a lot of people across the world maybe talk about Indonesian cases.
Right.
So not for just in the small scope, but in a broader area. We believe that this product maybe will give Indonesia the opportunity to we talk about the cases or the references that may be relevant to the global perspective.
Right. So it means that it will promote Indonesia, and we can be the benchmark. We will contribute to the global tax society. Right. What about the foreign investors? How can this manual be beneficial to them?
Of course, since right now, I think we are trying to attract as many as investors coming into Indonesia.
Right.
I think by using this product, I think it will help them maybe to understand better, give maybe a clear understanding about on how Indonesian landscape regarding the taxation, and it would help them maybe make decision to invest here in Indonesia, of course, because I believe that one of the most aspect that they consider by the investor is taxation area, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah, so it will be helpful for them. Yeah.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. The more foreign investors understand the tax regulation in Indonesia, and they can easily envision the opportunity to invest in our country. Is it right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And are there any parties that will gain the benefits from this ITM?
Yes, of course, from the tax professional itself, because there maybe need a lot of references in doing their tests. Maybe they have to know about the update about the current regulation. And also, we can imagine how much time they could save by using this platform, because usually they have to find first the regulation and then to compile it, to translate it, and maybe to check the implementation. So a lot of stages that would be saved by using this product. And then, yeah, we can imagine how effective they are in doing their tests by using this platform, because they could save so much time. And also for the academics, in conducting some research or something like that, maybe this is a good platform to make it more efficient and effective when they are conducting research. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, maybe last but not least, maybe for the government itself, yeah, because the main purpose of this product is to improve the tax literacy. Yeah, maybe hoping that by improving the tax literacy, that the tax compliance rate will be also increasing, and also it will be helpful for them in doing the joint audit with any other maybe tax authorities.
Yeah.
So I think this will be a good platform to be looked at and to maybe to be used in here.
Right. So you really made a very clear points there. I believe that everyone in this room agree with Pak Romi. Yeah. So as we all know, DDTC is actively eliminating tax asymmetric information among the society. From the video we just watched previously, since 2007, we have been publishing books, working paper, Inside Tax Magazine, newsletter, Indonesian Taxation Quarterly Report, and Policy Note. And we regularly publish news on our wonderful platform, DDTC News, and we manage the updated tax regulations on our wonderful platform, perpajakan.id, and we conduct training on-site and online at DDTC Academy. My question will go to Bapak Aji, and in your opinion, Pak Aji, how is the further correlation between what we have done along this time until today that we are finally launching a freshly new Indonesian Tax Manual 2023 on a digital platform, and how will you define the journey?
Okay, thank you, Sefty. Well, the Indonesian Tax Manual is basically, in a sense, an integral part of DDTC story and philosophy. Since DDTC's inception in 2007, our founders, Pak Darussalam and Pak Triadi, have strived to render new colors to the Indonesian tax system. So basically, they try to realizing the tax consultant profession into an officium nobile profession. So it's like a balancing between the commercial and social aspect activities.
Right.
So there is more to eliminating the tax asymmetric information in their activities. So since DDTC's day one, they have been actively sharing knowledge on domestic and international taxation issues through the book publishing and training and publications. So in terms of publication, initially DDTC used monthly tax magazine. So it's called Inside Tax Magazine. So over time, the monthly magazine, despite of being well known by the public, has a weakness, including the delay updates, cannot catch up with the dynamics of the tax landscape, and also not being in tune with the behavior of readers who are increasingly shifting towards the digital. So this is basically DDTC tax literacy activities 1.0.
Okay.
So at that point, we finally decided to change our product to be more current and more digital. This is marked by two things. The first is we released the DDTC News. So it's like an online media portal and trustworthy tax news to all the society. Through the DDTC News, information on developments in the tax sector can be attained more quickly and reliably. The second one, we digitalize all of our publication products, ranging from books, DDTC working papers, journal, Inside Tax Magazine. So this is DDTC Tax Literacy Activities Model 2.0.
All right.
Okay, over time, we began to notice that the increasingly diverse needs of the domestic tax society, specifically in terms of the availability of more structured and updated tax regulation documentation, as well as discussion on developments in Indonesian taxes from the glass of the international community. So we subsequently developed a search engine for the tax regulations, namely the DDTC Tax Engine, which was later transformed into perpajakan.id, and added two products to our list of regular publications. So it's called DDTC Newsletter and also Indonesian Taxation Quarterly Report. Both are in English and cover aspect of all taxes, including the international tax, national tax, subnational tax, customs, and excise. So this is DDTC Tax Literacy Model 3.0.
Okay.
So what's next then? DDTC doesn't stop at this point and rely on those models. So we extract the common thread from the entire developments of the DDTC tax literacy activities in few words. Up to date, comprehensive in one basket, digital, supported by the comprehensive tax regulations,
right?
English or bilingual, and reliable. So all of these elements are reflected into our new products called the Indonesian Tax Manual.
Wow, so we can say that the ITM is the next DDTC tax literacy activities model 4.0. Is it what?
Yes, correct.
Right. From the video, it tells us that the ITM is launched to facilitate and improve tax literacy. Again, Pak Aji, in your opinion, how is the reality of the tax literacy in Indonesia? And how will this ITM impact the tax literacy itself? And besides, do you see other purpose of the ITM itself?
Okay, thank you, Sefty. Well, before I comment about the condition of the domestic tax situation in Indonesia, it is essential that we all understand about the condition of our domestic tax compliance.
Right.
Well, first of all, we should understand that the tax ratio in Indonesia is relatively low for a member of G20 and also for a country which has stable and moderate growth over time. So numerous factors influence this performance, of course, so including the issue of the tax compliance. In this case, we need to pay attention to some of the data. For instance, that did you know that less than 50% of the labor force in Indonesia is registered in the tax system?
Really?
So many of those societies are still not registered in the tax system, and most of them, some of them, not most of them, some of them also not submit their tax returns. So up to now, the government has actually identified this problem, this low tax compliance problem. For instance, one of the points of the tax reform agenda through the harmonization of the tax regulation will encourage the use of the single identity number. And in addition, the government also understands that the efforts to increase the tax compliance may be driven by the tax literacy. Thus, over the past few years, we saw that the government has carried out various activities related to the literacy increasing agenda. For instance, like the pajak tertutur, tax inclusion program, establishing the tax instructor, penyuluh pajak, and also using social media to reach out the public and so forth. In this case, we trust that the government cannot stand alone. So in establishing a tax society and building the tax literacy. In this case, the DDTC call forward to play an active role in the tax literacy agenda. But the story is not ended in here. Tax literacy itself, in a sense, consists of several degrees of layers. The first and the most basic layer is to raise someone's awareness about the importance of taxation for the financing development and for their life, and also about the development of the domestic taxes itself. So this is the moral obligation of the tax literacy. So it's the basic needs for the public. The second layer is to encourage the public to understand the procedures for complying and fulfilling their tax obligation. So, for example, how can I completing tax return to register in PAT and so forth? This is the procedural obligation in the tax literacy. So this is the second layer. The third layer is how someone can be fluent in tax regulation and can be a tax expert or tax agent in the society. So this is the expert obligations. Thus, the tax literacy doesn't imply that a person has to be an expert, but consists of various layers, 1, 2, 3, starting from the awareness. Okay. In this case, the Indonesian Tax Manual is a product dedicated to all these three aspects through the ITM, which contains the development of issues, numerous regulations, and the dynamics of the Indonesian tax system. So we intend to target the three layers to raise and provide an understanding of the moral obligation, procedural obligation, and also the expert obligation. So the goal, the ultimate goal, is to increase the tax literacy and also simultaneously establish a tax society.
Right. That is really bold. I don't think I can add more because I'm worried that I will lessen the value of the sharing just now. I hope you don't mind. So, our next question. My next question is, what will be the next improvement to the ITM? What will be the next improvement, Pak David, to the ITM? Yeah.
Again, this is an ecosystem of tax platform. So currently, DDTC has also DDTC News. So we are targeting to integrate our DDTC News to discuss about policy and issues, development in Indonesia, tax, of course. We've seen that Minister of Finance, Director General of Tax, or the high-ranking officials often give lectures, give speech, or giving statements to the press, or having a presentation about policy discussions that currently we have captured under our DDTC News.
Right.
So our intention is to transform our DDTC News on significant issues, significant policies into English, and to update our ITM, DDTC, Indonesian Tax Manual, with all this latest policy and issues development discussion from our DDTC News. Second
one,
we'll have a forum in the platform, to get feedback or commentaries from our tax professionals in many ways, either interpretations or cross-reference with other regulations and newest issues and so on, regarding the chapters that is inside our ITM. And then finally, third, as Pak Romi has mentioned about how to bring up the Indonesian tax cases into the international stage, is by including tax cases into our ITM platform. We will update, for example, a chapter regarding the transfer pricing, for example, that Pak Romi has mentioned. We could include paragraph to paragraph mentioning about what is the latest case in transfer pricing method, dispute, for example, intangibles. And then we will cross-reference the case to our perpajakan.id platform, which the case most likely will be translated as well into English.
Okay, so I highlighted 3 points. They are elaborating some issues, and then enriching sources and discussion, and the case study. Case law. Wow, wonderful. Are you curious about the new implementation? Hold on. Okay. Well, last but not least, I would like to know what are the wishes from the speakers who are the contributors to the ITM, and what do you wish to the ITM users? Perhaps we can hear it from us, Romi. Bapak Romi, please.
Okay, Sefty. Okay, first, I wish that they can enjoy this product and also get benefit from it. Okay, and we have to maybe to highlight that maybe by using this platform or this product, there's a broader possible access. It will give them a broader possible access for all the stakeholders to obtain the latest and the most complete tax information here in Indonesia,
Right.
especially, and that can be used optimally to increase tax literacy. Again,
Right.
we have mentioned that quite many of them in this conversation, and maybe you can. Don't have to look somewhere else. Just
Yeah.
use this reliable platform, a single platform, and through one door that called Indonesian Tax Manual. You can look. Don't have to look somewhere else.
So yes.
Right. Okay, if I may share with you again what is just said by Bapak Romi, that I just want to re-emphasize it. I don't want to repeat whatever. So we will not be outdated if we have ITM with us. Do you agree? The second one, we will be more tax literate, and the third one is that we can easily find the tax information of Indonesia, and it's just from one door platform. Okay, right. That was really wonderful, and listening to the three contributors just now share their thoughts regarding the ITM. Now we will move to the Q&A session. Once again, if you have any questions, you can just drop your question on the link that was provided by my colleague there. In fact, we have received several questions from the participants. Thank you so much. And I will choose the first two questions. Right, so the first question is coming from Bapak Salomo Devi. And the question is, will this ebook be revised again if new information is added? How long will it take to be revised? And who wants to answer? Should I choose? I think we can start from Bapak David.
Okay. The planned agenda on updating the Indonesian Tax Manual is bi-weekly. So we strive our best efforts to update the ITM on every 2 weeks. So there's also a cross-reference to the updated regulations that has been translated as well into English. And every updates will be presented in a section that called latest update of the ITM.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Mas David, for the
Can I
answer.
add something there?
Of course.
Well, our commitment is to have the updated version of this kind of ITM
Right.
every 2 weeks at the latest,
At least.
because we have like a dedicated team
Right.
to updating the current regulation and also the current issues and insert it into the ITM. So this is our commitment to have like the updated ITM every 2 weeks at the latest.
At the latest, we can highlight that point. At the latest, we have the dedicated team for this one. So you don't need to worry. This is a reliable one. Okay, thank you, Mas David and Mas Aji. We go to the next question, which is coming from Bapak Bambang Hermawan. And the question is, we know that tax regulations will always be changing. Is the DDTC ITM will always update it based on every single change? Why do you think reading DDTC ITM is essential for us as tax professionals who work in the domestic compliance area? Well, this is, I think this question is best answered by Mas Aji, Bapak Aji.
Well, as I already said before, or mentioned before, that our commitment is to have like the updated version of the ITM and the latest at every 2 weeks. I think that the ITM is essential for the tax professionals, not only for the tax practitioners who does the clerical activities inside the corporate, but also like a tax researcher like me.
Mhm.
Because when we try to research probably the historical interpretation about the regulation, and also want to know the next or the projection of the future of the Indonesian tax system, we could rely to this kind of ITM question. So that is my strong point about the ITM. Yeah.
Right. So it becomes an essential tool for us as well, right? But we can consider that. And well, we can hear more answer from Bapak Romi, the other best answer. Yes, please, Pak.
Okay, I would like to add, I think how essential is this product. I think, yeah, again, it will save much of your time, because
Right.
you understand that in understanding some regulation, maybe it took time. It took a lot of stages. Start in finding those maybe a relevant regulation that maybe relevant to the case at hand, and maybe after that, after we find the regulation, and then we have to maybe compile it, and maybe check how to implement it or something
Right.
like that. I think, yeah, the basic or the essential things that maybe a tax professional will gain from this product is it will make your work more easier, and maybe more effective and efficient, because it already provided in only one single platform. That's all.
Right. That's really clear. Yeah. So I believe that you agree with the two speakers who just gave the answer just now. And well, I would like to say thank you very much to Bapak David, Bapak Romi, and Bapak Aji for all the sessions. But before we end the talk, this will be a great opportunity to listen to each contributor or the speakers here. What will be one sentence to describe the ITM? What if we start from Bapak Aji?
Okay, well, my closing remarks is the Indonesian Tax Manual is the first and the foremost guidance when surfing the Indonesian tax system.
First and foremost. That's really nice. And we can go to Bapak Aji, Bapak David in the middle, please.
Okay, so the DDTC Indonesian Tax Manual is the digital gateway to the Indonesian tax system.
Digital gateway. Very nice. No audience here. You can clap your hand with the icon. Right. And last, Bapak Romi, what will be the sentence to describe our writing?
DDTC Indonesian Tax Manual as a tax laboratory that provides an informative tax learning ecosystem.
Tax laboratory and tax learning ecosystem. Wonderful. Wow. They have very good vocabularies, right? I'm just joking. Right. Once again, thank you very much, Bapak David, Bapak Aji, and Bapak Romi. And this will mark the end of our Q&A session. Because after this, we're going to watch, and we're going to invite Atika to show us the demo of the ITM. Is everyone here wondering how this manual works? What are the features? And then a glimpse of the contents that we have inside this manual. Anyone? If yes, this will be the time where you can fully pay attention, because after this, our next speaker, Atika, will demonstrate the manual. Well, I will invite Atika to come in and give you the most treasuring time for you. Atika, the time and screen is yours.
Okay, thank you, Safi, and good afternoon to all the participants. So in this section, I will let you know the DDTC Indonesian Tax Manual closely. We have mentioned before that our DDTC Indonesian Tax Manual as a form of ebook will be updated bi-weekly following the latest development in tax regulations in Indonesia. Therefore, this time, we are releasing the DDTC publications on a digital platform, namely perpajakan.id. The goal is to facilitate the process of updating content and providing information on a bi-weekly basis for all users. So, follow my explanation, and I'll show you how to access the DDTC Indonesian Tax Manual. Okay. First, you can access our platform by typing perpajakan.id in the address toolbar. Then, our platform homepage will appear as follows. Here, you can directly select the Tax Manual channel to access the DDTC Indonesian Tax Manual publications. Okay, after clicking, the screen will display the front cover of the DDTC Indonesian Tax Manual. And this ebook can be read by scrolling down the cursor. Okay, well, here you go. When we enter chapter 1, you will see the screen divided into 3 parts. First, in the middle, okay, is the content section of the Indonesian Tax Manual. The content itself is divided for each section chapter based on the type of the text. You can see we have 13 chapters here, and we provide Indonesian Tax Manual content in English. The hope is that the universal language of English, access to information about Indonesian taxation can be read not only by Indonesians but also internationally. Okay, next, on the left side, we have the quick guide feature. Okay, this quick guide will help you move from several chapters at once quickly. This feature will make it easier for you to read content efficiently. If you want to move from chapter 1 to chapter 7, you can just click on chapter 7. Okay, let's try. Great. From the content, you will see the hyperlink with blue color. So it means we connect you from the content to our portal news and text database platform. Maybe we can try this blue hyperlink first. Okay. Okay, so here is the platform of the tax database. We will provide you the English tax regulations from Indonesia. Okay, and we can go back to the content. Maybe you can scroll down again. Okay, there are, oh, here you go. Another blue hyperlink. Let's see. Yep. Okay, now we connect you with our portal news, DDTC News. So you can scroll down that we have the English translation for the news as well. Okay, go back to the content. Here, all the links that are inserted in the content, we compile on the right side. Okay, we can move to the right side. This is the sidebar. So all additional information that applies to each chapter is also there. So we already compile it for each chapter. So it's very easy for you to follow which links related only for that specific chapters you want to read. And we can see the first line of the sidebar, scrolling up. Okay. Here, you will see the information regarding the updated date for the contents of the Indonesian Tax Manual. Okay. Then in the second line, you will see information about the content of the previous version of the chapter. So you can use this link to compare the content of specific chapters from the last version with the version currently on PID. Maybe there was questions about how we update the content, then you can find here. And if you scroll down this sidebar, we will find a list of tax regulations on the column relevant legal resources and a list of DDTC news as well. Okay, here is the column. Both are relevant to the content in that chapter. This sidebar also provides important context such as DDTC Consulting and DDTC Academy. You can also access the latest information regarding training and webinar schedules through the sidebar. Moreover, if you need a specific tax assistance from our expert, we also put all the expert profile from DDTC on the page. We can see there in our homepage. Okay, here's with our experts. So the purpose of this sidebar is to make it easier to access sources in certain chapter content and all about DDTC information in Samdo. Then, as we mentioned before, there is a list of tax regulations on the sidebar. When we click one, when we click one of the regulations listed, we can see regulations document from legal sources channel. Okay. Based on the original objective of DDTC Indonesian Tax Manual itself, we aim to provide the latest information about Indonesian taxation in general. So therefore, we also offer tax regulation in 2 languages, Indonesian and English. In this case, we translate Indonesian tax regulations into English independently of our translation team. But for all participants, to get the access to this English tax regulation, you have to subscribe a perpajakan.id premium account. But however, we have provided 10% discount voucher for all special tax subscription. We will give this voucher discount for all participants who attended today's talk show. We will send you the code through email after the event. Okay. Thank you very much for your attention. That's all from my side.
Memperkenalkan perpajakan premium. Lebih dari 1 juta orang telah mengakses perpajakan. Saatnya Anda sendiri yang rasakan kehebatan platform database perpajakan dengan konten terpercaya, akses mudah, dan fitur yang lengkap ini. Dengan subscribe ke perpajakan premium, Anda dapat merasakan pengalaman mencari dan menemukan peraturan pajak dengan cepat, mudah, dan pasti terpercaya. Perpajakan premium juga dilengkapi fitur highlight untuk memudahkan Anda menandai dan menyimpan teks yang diinginkan. Tak hanya itu, Anda juga bisa download berbagai macam legal dokumen terkait perpajakan. Ada lagi, Anda juga bisa dapat notifikasi secara real-time saat ada peraturan perpajakan terbaru. Masih kurang, Anda juga akan dapat akses penuh ke berbagai newsletter dan e-books yang tersedia dalam 2 bahasa loh. Masih kurang juga? Tenang, kami hadirkan khusus untuk Anda. Ini dia fitur-fitur yang akan membantu Anda menyelesaikan permasalahan di dunia pajak. Nah, pekerjaan Anda jadi lebih mudah kan dengan perpajakan? Jadi lebih dengan perpajakan premium.
Demonstration was crystal clear. All the features in the manual are accommodating a purpose, so the user can use the ITM in convenient ways, right? Yeah. So here I will be still with her, and she will accompany me, and we're going to talk together with our special guests. Right here. So Atika, would you like to greet our first special guest today? Who will be the first one?
Okay, let me start with the first guest who is coming from Austria. He recently came to Indonesia. I guess it was last September 2022, Sakti. He was the speaker for a training here in Indonesia just last year. He's basically an officer at the Austrian Tax Administration. So I would like to greet Simon. Hi, Simon. Hi, Simon. Are you there with us? Hi.
Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yeah,
Thanks.
clearly.
Hi.
Thank you. Hi. How are you doing, Simon? Oh,
I'm fine.
You're wearing batik. Are you wearing batik?
Yeah, I got a short notice that we should wear batik today, and as I got a present last year when I was there in September in Jakarta from the Indonesian Tax Authorities, I thought it's a good opportunity to get it out of the dresser again and to wear it today. Yeah.
Oh, wow, amazing. So how was your last visit to Jakarta? Do you like Indonesia?
Yeah, I liked it quite much. Unfortunately, I was on business travel, so I did not have the time to enjoy Indonesia that much. So I definitely have to come back again to visit Bali and other places, but I enjoyed it very much when I was there.
Oh, cool. So happy to see you here.
Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Okay, well, we are going to greet our second guest, who is Sakti.
Oh, our second special guest is Thomas. He is the partner of Oracle Tax Consulting in Dubai. Hi, Thomas.
Hi, am I audible?
Ah, sorry,
Am
you
I-
can. Oh, yes. Hi, Thomas. Hi, Thomas. I heard that you are.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard that you are planning wearing a batik to attend this event. Is that true? But apparently you were traveling somewhere.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't. I'm traveling and I didn't bring my batik shirt, so I think our colleague from Austria is stealing the show really today.
How did you have one? How did you have one?
Sorry?
Did you ever, how did you have batik? Have you ever visited Indonesia or yeah?
Well, let me try the following. Someone prepared something for me today to greet all of you. Selamat siang ibu-ibu, bapak-bapak, dan teman-teman perpajakan Indonesia. Nama saya Thomas van He, saya dari Belgia. Terima kasih atas kesempatan yang telah diberikan untuk berpartisipasi dalam acara ini. Sorry, I'm really my pronunciation is not good. Saya juga mau mengucapkan terima kasih untuk istri saya yang sudah menerjemahkan pembukaan ini ke dalam bahasa Indonesia.
Oh wow! This was really the pronunciation, right? This is. I was curious. So your wife is Indonesian, is it?
Correct.
Oh wow! It's nice. Nice to know that. Yeah, you're getting fluent in talking in Bahasa Indonesian. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. Right. Well, we will greet our third special guest, and 1 second, I'm lost. Well, our third speaker is our third special guest is Rishabh Agarwal. He is a chartered accountant coming from India. Hi, Rishabh. Are you there?
Hello, everyone. Hi, Thomas and Simon and Atika over here.
Hi. I bet now it's around in the mid-afternoon. And have you had your lunch?
Not yet. I had to join in here. So lunch is after this.
Yeah. So thank you, Rishabh, for joining our event in the middle of your busy day. And in
Pleasure
your
is all mine.
okay. So we are very pleased to have the three of you with us today. I hope you can share your stories, perspective, insight for us. Yeah, we are really delightful to have you. Right. So we have heard and we have listened to the first session with our speakers, sharing with us the journey of ITM when we have and we have watched the manual demo by Atika. We believe that the three of you might have the same concerns with us and about the availability of certain countries' tax regulations, which is in English, and of course one of the common problem we are sure it is language, Atika. And with that being said, we would like to know if you have experience of finding tax regulations or laws from other countries, which is written in English or which are provided in English, right? This country may not have English as their first language, and what was the challenge when you are trying to find that regulations, and how did you overcome it, right? So maybe we can start from Rishabh. Okay. Yes, Rishabh. So can you share your experience about finding one?
Yeah, I mean, I was working, for a Philippines company who also had Indian operations. So it was very tough for me first to communicate and comprehend like the normal instructions and everything. And then came the demon of tax law because it was so complex for me even to find summaries in English. And it was getting tough even with the help of my client because I was asking them to translate it for me. Because no matter whatever translators you use online, they fuss a little bit for the technical terms. and tax law, be it indirect or direct, is a very technical subject. And, you need to have those terms in your head, and you need to read those terms in order to interpret the law in itself. So for me, it was a transfer pricing assignment, but just the TP regulations in itself for a Southeast Asian country was a very big challenge. I mean, you can find out summaries and everything, but then that do not give you a very deep insight, even to do simple tasks, or to do a mechanical job. So I mean, this DDTC manual is a very good product right now for at least for the international tax lawyers and consultants who may just need get an overview.
All right. So basically, you were working for a Philippine company, right? And then how did you overcome it when you need to find the tax regulation? You want to understand the regulations of the Philippine, and how did you overcome it?
I mean, it was very tough. We tried using various resources. We had a few, we found, stumbled upon a few tax summaries. Then we also had a little access to IBFD at that time. That was a little fortunate, because everyone doesn't have access to it. Then, also with the help of the client, it was like a band-aid. Like you were trying to fix things from various solutions. So it was not just one thing. And I would say that it was not a perfect or a long-term solution. So, I mean, it's a little tough. So I would not say that we overcame the challenge completely, but we did find a quick fix for it.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes.
Well, yeah. So that was really interesting.
Yeah, I can say also, like translating the terminology in taxation is very challenging.
Right.
Like the language of text itself is not very common. So when we translate from English to, let's say, Indonesian, or Indonesian to English, there will be some people that can't understand which terminology itself. That is very can be used for all. I mean, like we have to manage the consistency of the terminology itself.
Of course. So, yeah, and also like we have to really know what is the for example, the tax term and then the law term, right? So that can be a challenge for everybody, not only for Indonesian, not only for Indian, but for every countries, right? Well, what about Thomas? Hi, Thomas. Can you share with us the same story or the similar experience to Rishabh, please?
Sure. I wanted to bring an additional angle to this to the conversation, just talking about languages and translation. As I said in my intro in Bahasa, I'm a Belgian national, right? So I manage our firm in the UAE and in Saudi Arabia, but I'm originally from Belgium. That's why I practiced as a lawyer initially. Now, my country, as similar to a couple of other countries in Europe, has a very specific history and a position when it comes to languages and the associated requirement for the translation of legislation. To run back a tiny bit in history, when you look at the Kingdom of Belgium, which was founded in 1830, it was originally founded as a French-speaking country. Now, the majority of the people at the time, they did not speak French. They were Dutch speakers, or what is sometimes referred to as Flemish. Yeah, we're a bit different from Indonesia in the sense that we were never colonized by the Dutch. It was just also our mother tongue. And only in 1898, so more than 60 years later, was Dutch also recognized as an official language. And what that meant very specifically is that when you look at the official gazette, which is published every day in Belgium with all of the legislation, we had to have a side-by-side translation of the official gazette in both official languages. And that translates through to also the debates in Parliament. The debates in Parliament, whatever is your mother tongue, that's the language that you will speak. Now, most people would be bilingual, but other people can use the translation in the Parliament. So we have simultaneous translation. It even evolved in a bit more of a complicated sense in 1920, because as a result of the Treaty of Versailles, which ended the First World War, because of the damage caused by Germany in the First World War, we were awarded part of the territory of Germany with German speakers. And that meant that all of a sudden we had a trilingual country. And this meant all legislation now had to be translated into 3 languages.
Right.
So, yeah, so it's quite particular. It's not unique. Yeah. Switzerland, for example, has 4 official languages. I know India has many languages, although I guess the most common in use would be Hindi and English. But so we're very accustomed to this international requirements. And I would add to that as well. Today, the #1 spoken language in Brussels is English. And Spanish is the 5th language spoken in Brussels. So that means that we have that requirement. And obviously this is in part also influenced by the presence of international institutions in Brussels, such as the EU and NATO, which makes it a very international town. And in the European Parliament, where in part the legislation is voted mostly by the Council, actually, European Council, we need to translate all laws into 24 languages, all of the 24 official languages. So what you're, stating as a challenge in Indonesia in terms of translating tax terms from Bahasa Indonesia to English and back, something that we're quite accustomed to. But it's good to see that you're embarking on the same adventure, and I think it's crucial and a key in understanding each other's legal frameworks and experiences, really, that we also understand the language bit.
Right. So it proves that the challenge is always language, like the historical story from Tom's, that it's also a challenge in the part of Europe, right? Yeah. So that's why we have this translation to help everybody to know about the tax regulation of Indonesia as well, right? That's really a great
comprehensive story. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you so
for
much.
getting that.
Well, we should go to the 3rd person.
Simon.
Thomas. Yeah. Shall you share with us your story, your version of story, please?
Yeah. So basically, what I can add as an angle is even we as a tax administration can share the stories of lost in translation to a certain extent when it comes to having different kind of tax laws into different kind of environments. But let me start with an introduction a little bit, because I think it's important to understand why is it for us as an Austrian, as a national tax administration, important to understand tax laws of other countries. The way our current working environment is, especially in Europe, but gets more and more globalized, is working now, is that we constantly, when we're talking about large taxpayers, have to audit like cross-border. Not only the transaction in itself will be cross-border, but more and more, even the interaction between tax administrations themselves will be conducted more cross-border. This starts, of course, in a very early stage, sometimes when we're considering or trying to do an advanced pricing agreements or do multilateral risk assessments such as the ICAP program. Then goes on to a little bit more real-time trying to solve the issues, like with joint audits. And the last element of last resort can then sometimes be, if needed, a dispute resolution mechanism where we try to solve certain disputes that we have cross-border and trying to avoid double taxation, but as also on the other side, double non-taxation. So why does this get important for us to, on a very quick scale, understand the tax regulation of another country? Because very often, when we have a large taxpayer, you will, of course, not go into depth in every transaction that you see, but you will first conduct a little bit kind of internal risk assessment where you say, well, I have information on transaction to various countries, and now I need to assess which transaction could potentially be of interest for us, but also of interest for the other country. And by that, you have to somehow assess or get to know on a quick glance the tax regulation of the other country. And I wanted to provide you with a very simple example which comes out of domestic law, in Austria, but has a very global impact. We have a domestic law regulation that says interest and royalties cannot be deducted if they are not taxed with at least 10% in the other country. What does that mean? If you have like a cross-border transaction and there's interest and royalties paid out, you then need to assess, well, in the other country, is this taxed at 10%? It's a very easy example, but it gives you already a hint that, well, you need to assess in the other country, what is the statutory rate? What is the effective tax rate? Are there certain like incentives that can lower the effective tax rate, and so on and so forth? And the challenging issue very often is when you don't have the information available directly at IBFT or in English, that you then, being smart, start, of course, with looking into what have the some law firms maybe have a quick glance or have something in the available on the internet, or you try to assess the information not in English, you try to translate it somehow with DeepL or Google Translate and hope that the translation is somehow right. But the challenging issue that's always still left in the cloud sometimes is the translation in itself right of the terms? And secondly, is this the up-to-date version of the law that you found? Or is it something that where you say, well, I found this one and I think it's right, but it could be an outdated version of the information that you need.
Right.
Yeah, that is very comprehensive explanation. Thank you, Simon. From the perspective of tax authority itself, like the barriers of translating the regulation into English is very obvious. Yeah.
Right.
And do you think that how will the impact of easily accessible and understandable tax regulations affect the success of any Austrian tax program, tax authority program, like cooperative compliance program? Maybe there is some impact for that as well.
Yeah. So when I'm thinking about how of the DDTC's tax manual, and when I prepared for this call, I was thinking, how can this be used? And I'm trying to answer that on various like angles and various situations that came to my mind. And the first one I think is a timing perspective that we see in international tax law coming up in the near future, but also I think in the present already. Meaning that the old and traditional approach of a tax administration was very often that we had ex-post audits, meaning that we came 3 to 5 years later, assessed the tax base, said, well, is it correct or is it not correct? Meaning that we were more outcome-based and more, show me the receipt. I don't care for all your processes that you had before. Now, let's see whether I assess this as right or wrong. But more and more, the landscape or the interaction with the taxpayer is changing towards a more real-time or ex-ante approach to having tax examinations, as well as having interaction with taxpayers and amongst authorities itself, meaning that we are now more looking not only ex-ante, meaning earlier, but also we are more input oriented. So we'll look at the process of a taxpayer and we will deem this process as, is this process something that we see as plausible for a taxpayer to report the right amount of tax at the right amount of time, or is this something where we have flaws, or where we see potentially that there could be some risks that we see? Meaning that, summarizing that, we need somehow very information that is easy to access, that shows you on a quick glance what is the tax regulation of a certain country, if you want to deem a process as plausible or not, but also has additional information on how to go deeper or dig deeper in case needed. The second question, or second angle, I think that comes to my mind is not only the cooperative and earlier part, but also the more and more cross-border interaction part. And that is not the newest development, but it gets newer, more, or it gets increased more and more. Coming out of the PEPS program, we have more interaction between tax administrations, but also on the other hand, more scrutiny, I would say, on the cross-border relations of related entities. And why does it get important? Something that was touched upon in discussion before was that you will not only show on a quick glance the information, but you will have further references to certain law provisions, to case law or something like that. And that is important for us as well. When you say, well, we have now identified maybe an issue, now let's look at for example, relating to transfer pricing, how does Indonesia see a certain transaction? How does Indonesia deal with intangibles in their local tax law? And this gets important when we not only trying to scrutinize the transaction, but also more and more when we try to solve an issue. Because when two tax administrations sit together and try to interpret the tax treaty, or hopefully the tax treaty they have amongst each other, then it is very important to understand the other side of the story, to understand where does they come from, what is the national domestic regulations that you have, and also maybe what is their boundaries, where are they left out because their regulation, the domestic regulation tells them it has to be like that or not. Okay. And the last thing I want to say is a more digitalized world that we see from a tax perspective, meaning that I kind of like the idea that this is all online, it's all like easy to comprehend with a few clicks, because especially when we come to issues like Pillar 2 now, where it's, I would not say directly like a formulary apportionment, but it's something where you say we have a globalized system on how to calculate effective tax rates per country, meaning that some centralized function in a company, but also in tax administration, needs to assess on a very comprehensive scale, is there a risk, but also is this calculated in the right way? And now imagine, like, when I'm trying to understand the other side of the story, if there's a big corporation that has business dealings around the world, and they're trying to set up a one-stop shop process for Pillar 2, they need information on the tax law in Indonesia. Is there something like considered a flow-through entity? Is some entity considered transparent that is maybe considered as a single legal entity in my country, and so on and so forth? And by that, I think by that three perspectives, I very much like the idea that there's information in the internet available that DDTC tries to do with the Indonesian Tax Manual, and somehow also goes on a very quick glance, but goes deeper in case you need it.
Okay, yeah. So if I can highlight one thing, it will about interpreting, is it? Everything will start from how we interpret the tax regulation itself. If we miss to interpret the tax regulation itself, then how we can go further to know the tax regulation in that country, how the foreign investor can consider this country to be the destination of the investment, or maybe how the two tax authorities can conduct the joint audit. Let's say that we have mentioned joint audit as well. But again, it will start from the interpreting the tax regulation. That's why the English translation in a universal language is very essential. Yeah, that's right. I think that's the highlight that I can take from three of you. Right, really great, Simon. Well, we can move to our next question. This question will go to Thomas. Yeah, but suddenly, Atika, something popped up in my mind that Thomas is really great in language. Is he? Because he is coming from Europe, right? I mean, like Brussels, and then he told us the story that the tax regulations are translated in many languages, at least 5. Is that? Yeah. So suddenly, Thomas must be really good in language. Okay. Skip. Okay. So my question is, on 9 December 2022, the United Arab Emirates MOF just published the corporate tax law. And what steps have you taken, Thomas, to assist taxpayers and foreign investors in Dubai in understanding Dubai's tax regulations? Do you provide like a tax literature in the form of a tax database portal? And if yes, what encourages you to start managing tax regulations on a digital platform? And how effective is it in assisting the taxpayers and the foreign investor in Dubai?
Thank you very much for that question. I think it's an essential question indeed, and it all evolves a bit around communication. As you said, indeed, in the UAE, we're awaiting the the corporate income tax to take effect as from June 2023. When I say that, it actually is in effect, but obviously the payments are only due as from June 2023. Our friend Rishab has YouTube clips and whatnot, which you can check, which are quite nice to view. I want to make a bit of a segue, or rather a bridge actually to my earlier comments as well. So since January 2017, I'm established in the Gulf region. English is not the first language in the Gulf, right? It's Arabic. And there's a great deal of challenges when it comes to the again, translation of Arabic into English and English into Arabic. And the reality is actually in the region that because the drafting process is very often assisted by consultants such as ourselves, the laws are drafted in English. A lot of Arabic speakers will often say, but we need to check the Arabic, and then the Arabic is the only official language. That's correct, but actually it comes from English, and that's where we should really look. This comes with a great deal of challenges as well. Simon was referring a couple of moments ago to Pillar 2. We've had enormous challenges in trying to translate certain terms from English to Arabic. I'll give you an example, the at arm's length principle. For us in English, it rolls off the tongue. In Arabic, it does not. You give a description of what it's supposed to be, rather than using an acronym or a short form of it. The same thing goes for Pillar 2. I think that we are yet to find the translation into Arabic of something like the UTPR, for example. We're gonna be struggling with that. In the Gulf, the countries are from the outside they look all a bit the same, but from the inside they are quite different. The UAE, where our main HQ is a country which is dominated by expats, really. When I say dominated, I mean the proportion of the expats into the overall population is about 90%, 90. That means that necessarily the government needs to communicate in English, and it does so. So the Ministry of Finance will publish its legislation and in English and in Arabic. The Federal Tax Authority is going to be communicating in both English and Arabic. But usually the legislation will say that when required, the tax authority can ask for translation into Arabic. What you see, however, is when you look at the tax authority itself, you'll find people who don't speak Arabic as well, who will audit as well. So the use of English is in the UAE very much accepted. That's to a lesser extent so in a country like, for example, Saudi Arabia, where I am currently, where for example, invoices and whatnot, they need to be translated into Arabic. So I think that's the struggle around communication and translation. Now, in the end, a lot of it comes back to communication, and there's different, all of the stakeholders can play a different role. The Federal Tax Authority, the Ministry of Finance and the UAE, they play a very important role in this. They do something which I hadn't seen in Europe. Awareness sessions, they conduct training sessions with the larger public. They are open for questions and answers as well, publish a great deal of guidance, press releases, and so on. To a lesser extent, but also quite active, Saudi Arabia's Atika does this as well. Just last week, there was a conference in Riyadh. The conference was bilingual. Obviously, our trade doesn't really lend itself to mass market communication. We're always a bit niche, right? And it really depends a bit, are we talking to SMEs or are we talking to large corporations? Now, when it comes to our firms as such, we have a communication strategy, let's say, which is not entirely dissimilar to DDTC. And therefore, I would want to commend you guys, because in turn, that means that we are commending ourselves as well on this, which essentially means the following. We publish thought leadership articles on a monthly basis. We publish tax updates on a daily basis as well. Much like Rishab, we also have a YouTube channel, which has a lot of videos on it. Every single webinar we have conducted, you can find it back on our YouTube channel as well. That's in terms of legislation. We also have obviously court cases in the Gulf, in the UAE and Saudi Arabia. When it comes to court cases, there's a shortage of information. Now, we don't have in the Gulf, let me talk maybe about the UAE in first instance, we don't have a system of precedent. Some people in the common law jurisdictions find that incredibly shocking. When it comes to civil law jurisdictions, we are very much accustomed to this because we look at first at the grand principles foremost, rather than having an overhaul every time that there's a new court case with dissenting opinions and an overhaul of prior case law. The fact of the matter, though, is that today this case law in the UAE is barely accessible. We have access to it informally. Obviously, the court cases are judged in Arabic, but there is, and this is a bit going back to your point on tax literacy, there is little expertise on the level of the administrative bodies that judge on tax cases in the UAE, but also on the judicial level where the judges sit on taxation. A lot of the disputes evolve around procedural matters rather than really in-depth matters. My bet is this is going to change in the future, but again, it requires also upskilling and training of judges and so on. When it comes to tax literacy, and I'll stop in a minute or so, I would say in the Gulf, it's not very high. It's actually a very exciting region to be in, because when I come from Europe, everything is done already. There's books everybody has written already, and here we're really at the forefront of a development. At the same time, we're in a region where the countries, they want to go, they view Europe as the old continent, and they view Europe as we're going to pass it by very quickly because our ambitions reach much further. So it's very nice to see this. They're challenging ambitions, but who doesn't like a good challenge, right? But so I think that means that with all of those developments, tax literacy needs to be built up as well a bit. And while it is there, there's still some way to go. I guess that was my conclusion.
Thank you, Thomas. So if I can highlight one thing from Thomas, so the court cases in UAE is accessible in Arabic language, is it?
So they are actually not readily accessible. So the verdicts are only made in Arabic, and only if you've worked on the case yourself, or let's say if you have an informal channel, you are able to obtain the court case. So that also means that, for example, from the viewpoint of the practitioners, what sometimes happens is people get creative with the outcomes of the cases that they've had. If you understand what I mean. So there's no way for us to verify whether that person has effectively obtained this judgment or not, because it's not out in the open. And I think that's a bit of a handicap when it comes to the analysis really of these court cases.
So at the end, there must be another stakeholders to play an active role. I mean, like in the tax literacy agenda itself in the UAE. Is it?
Yeah. Right. Well, actually, I really like the point that about the communication strategy itself that Thomas has mentioned and has shared with us, and then that he is trying to share the tax update itself. Is it monthly basis and also
daily basis?
Daily basis as well, and then the YouTube content, to increase the tax literacy itself. Like we try to educate and to give the information to.
Maybe if I can illustrate these tools, it is like a dots. We have many dots in our tools, like newsletter, YouTube channel, or tax database portal, and how we connect all the dots itself. Maybe it is
I think it's going to really the needs. I mean, the needs now is more beyond than only that dots, but we have to connect them. So it's very simple, practical for people that can use that. They can easily absorb the content itself, right? By the way, Thomas, I'm still curious about it means about the digital platform that you are trying to utilize the platform such as YouTube. But I'm curious if you are trying to like manage tax regulations, or are you do you kind of building a platform? If I may know, if you have one, do you have
Yeah,
one?
so we have our internal one right now, and I guess what Atika was saying about those dots, we're currently trying to connect those dots to make it then available to others.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, that's good. That's great. We can start from our internal first, then we can share that publicly then, right? So that will really helpful in Dubai. Okay, right.
So talking about tax literacy, Sefty.
Yeah.
Thomas also mentioned about tax literacy. Then I would like to, I have a curiosity from Rishabh. So Rishabh, as we know that tax court decisions from Indonesia have become references to other developing countries. I wanted to know from your perspective, your opinion, how is tax literacy itself in India as a developing country it up to the position as a best practice or benchmark of other countries? What do you think about that?
Okay, so I'll add a little bit from the points which Thomas have mentioned about tax literacy, the comparison of civil law and common law jurisdictions, and also in the previous talk I heard David and Romi talking about that tax literacy is a three-step thing that you have tried to target. So it's a little similar in India as well. Tax literacy at the part of businesses, or I'll say entrepreneurs, is let's say enough and basic for them to run their businesses. However, they always have to refer to an expert or to a consultant or an external consultant, because India is also a developing nation in terms of tax regulations, both direct and indirect. So the regulations the law is so volatile and it's so complex that every time you cannot have like one solution fits all. So you need to have a customized solution for yourself. So this is one thing, I would say, one tier of tax literacy at the part of businesses. Then, again, if you look at, if you have to be a tax expert, so there's this thing that information is available freely. It's all public, and anyone and everyone who wants to learn can learn. It's just that it's about your motivation. How do you want to use that information? Then everything's available, both in English and Hindi. That's the mother tongue that I speak. So, and English being one of the working languages. So our Gazette is also published in English and Hindi both. And all the laws are published in Hindi and English both. And both of them are considered as, let's say, official languages if it's a dispute in terms of linguistic issues. So from the point of tax literacy, I would say that it's quite high. And if you compare, the court cases, as Thomas was mentioning, that the judiciary is a little opaque on the court decisions. In India, even if it's tribunals or, tax courts or the High Court and Supreme Court, all the decisions are available freely on their website. Again, they are mostly in English, at least for the High Courts and Supreme Courts. Maybe the regional courts may have their regional languages, but there's always an official English translation available. Also, there are a lot of platforms which, provide commentaries and everything on these cases, and you can obviously subscribe to them. That is one part. And considering in the judiciary, we have dedicated tax benches. So if you have income tax or a corporate tax case at the level of a tax tribunal, you will have an accountant member always sitting at the bench. So it's usually a 2-member bench, whereas one is a judiciary member and the other is an accountant member. So you always get that flavor of tax expertise when the decisions for tax cases are being decided. And similarly, even at the level of the high courts, you will usually find that there's an accountant member or a person who has knowledge and some experience in working in tax law, in the relevant tax law, while deciding the case, because we know that this is super technical, and you cannot make a judge or a judiciary understand if they do not have the base for tax law. So again, even they do have their back-end teams and they have the consultants. They also rope in private consultants for referring it them to the technical aspects, and considering from the side of revenue. So in India, revenue do not, I would say, like formally engage a lot of external consultants for representing themselves in the court of law, or doing tax litigation. So even at the part of revenue, the tax training and tax literacy is pretty high. They regularly have sessions and awareness sessions on different topics, updates. Right now, BEPS Pillar 1, Pillar 2 is a hot topic for them, and so they call it as an academy of taxes. So it's a dedicated wing that the revenue has made, which is under the aegis of Ministry of Finance, to keep up the tax literacy is from the department side. So I would say that, it pretty much sums it up all. And India as a developing jurisdiction, we do refer to foreign court cases. I'm not sure that how much our cases are taken as a benchmark or best practice in the international forum. I'm not sure about that, but I would say in considering transfer pricing or the corporate tax law, we are a pretty matured jurisdiction where we cover a lot of issues. Even when it comes to the international tax space, a lot of issues are being dealt with in India. As we have a reputation for being a little more creative when we are doing our business. So we do create problems, and that's the place where the litigation and the tax lawyers and tax experts have to jump in.
That's a great point. Anyways, I think
Create the problem and then find the solution.
And it will become the tax literacy.
Okay. Right, that's a really great sharing.
Indeed.
Do you want to say something about what will you say about the sharing from him?
Yeah, like tax society in India itself is already the legal is in English. The working language is English.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that we can
easily find the source from the
also accept that and interpret them. Because there are so many case study that I look up to from the court decisions in India, and we can summarize it easily as well.
Hopefully Indonesia can be the next benchmarking sources, right? Okay, Atika, our special guests have been really insightful and inspiring today. All their perspectives and experience are in line with the purpose of ITM, because we're going to share this regulations, our regulation. We want everyone know this, right? And I can say that we have the same spirit about this one, right?
That's exactly how I feel, Sefty.
Right.
Yeah, I'm over the moon to hear these our guest speakers sharing with us very in a comprehensive way. Like,
you're right. You are very right. So, but last, we would like to listen to our special guest speakers right now. That what will be your last statements about how the Indonesian Tax Manual 2023 that is just launched today by DDTC will be beneficial and helping tax people from around the world or from other countries. So what's your thoughts? Maybe we can start. We will ask one by one. So each of you, we would like to hear some words. How if we start from who? With Atika? We can choose the man.
Maybe we can start with Thomas.
Thomas, yes, please, Thomas.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to give my concluding statements. I think it's a wonderful instrument for a country which is flourishing, which is a G20 country, which is a country that is taking on an increasingly important role in Southeast Asia. I think you demonstrated with the G20 summit in Bali a couple of months ago. I think for foreign businesses investing into Indonesia, I think this is a very, very useful tool. Those foreign investors are going to want to understand the local tax environment, and this is going to be the first go-to really in the future. So I'd say congratulations on your firm and on launching this. It's a beautiful instrument. I hope it'll go very well for yourselves, and I'll hope to pass by it in your offices next time I'm in Jakarta in a couple of months.
Wow, totally agree with you. We hope that we have more investors, and it's possible because they know about our tax regulations, right? And thank you for the wish, Thomas. And we can move to the next person. What about Rishabh? Rishabh, please. What would you say about our ITM?
I would, I just saw when Atika invited us, I was given the ITM 2022 to take a review of what exactly DDTC is doing and how they have upgraded it to 2023's version. So I would say that I could quote it like as a move of going global, and this would definitely help foreign investors that want to come in Indonesia, and tax lawyers, tax experts like us, who might have a second leg in Indonesia for their clients. So, and it's a wonderful tool so that we can obviously get everything in English, and also not just a summary or just not one paragraph about what we want to know, but a deep insight. And as you earlier also mentioned that you are trying to inculcate the case laws and the jurisprudence as well at a later stage, and the updation is bi-weekly. So I think there could be nothing better than a real-time, almost real-time update, and having everything at one place. It's literally a one-stop shop for Indonesian tax.
Thank you, Rishabh. Maybe you can also refer to ITM if you need reference.
Yeah, definitely. I would do that. And I was trying to explore the portal earlier as well in the day, but once if I encounter a problem for Indonesia, so before calling you guys, I'll definitely try and refer that.
Thank you so much, Rishabh. Well, yeah, help us to promote our ITM. Okay, then, so we can ask our last special guest today. Simon, what would you say about our ITM, please?
Yeah, I think I can continue what my colleagues just said. It's a marvelous job you did here, and the idea itself is perfect, and the way you put it into practice is really congratulations on that. The thing I think that needs to be highlighted here is also that a country that is really a large economy is growing has now officially something out, supported by a bi-weekly update that is really condensed on their tax regulation, but with additional flavor, or with going deeper into expertise if somebody needs, is really something I think that should be highlighted and should be promoted more, because also other countries have I think same problems that you say, well, we have a lot of literature, we have a lot of specifics in our domestic national language, like we do in Austrian German, but very often I get asked questions from other tax professionals on how do you see that in Austria? And then you say, well, we have a very condensed English information from the federal ministry, but everything else, like explanatory statements from the parliamentary discussion, going down to case law, going down to administrative guidance, is then in German. Now, how do you explain that? And you try to translate, you say, well, this can be, maybe you can translate it yourself with people, or try to help them a little bit more. But what you have done here is say, well, we have now a standard tool, we can show you that. And you can firsthand look the information up yourself. If you're satisfied, you can use the information just as we provided in the DDTC. But if you need more, if you need specific expertise, we even included our contact details in order for the people to reach out and get more specific expertise to their case. And I think this one-stop shop atmosphere in English will be something to go forward for a lot of other jurisdictions. Should be a role model, and therefore congratulations on what you did here, and I really like the idea.
Thank you for mentioning that, Simon. We really appreciate that, and we agree with you. This awareness that we also would like to share with the participants in this Zoom meeting room. Thank you so much, three of you. After we listen to the three special guests, this is undoubtedly that this is a relevant tax literacy activity around the world, right? Like, it's happening not only in Indonesia, right? And DDTC, we are working on that. We are providing the practical source on tax regulations so that we can be the gateway to Indonesian tax information. Right. That's really wonderful time having you, Simon, Thomas, and Rishabh. Thank you so much. We are truly delighted. We are really pleased to have the three of you. We have heard your story and perspectives. All the best, and thank you so much, and see you. Bye-bye now. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. Well, Atika, thank you for accompanying me here. We're going to have our last agenda, which is the door prize session. Okay. The backstage team, please be ready with the screen. So our door prize for today is 1 year free subscription to our Perpajakan ID platform, right? I believe that this is already familiar to you. Perpajakan ID is our tax database platform. You can access all the regulations regarding Indonesian tax law, both in Bahasa and English. So the rule is, once you register yourself to the event, your name will be automatically on the board. So don't be worried that your name isn't there, even though like you cannot see your name there. It's very, very small. But don't worry. After this, my colleague will help spinning the board. And once it stops, you can see the name of the lucky person. Okay. So are you ready, everybody? Well, we will start with the first spinning. Please. I'm so excited. Who will be the first one? Yolanda Margaret Saragi. You are the first lucky person. Next spinning, please. Bapak Lim Adrian Budi Kusuma. Wow, this will be the last spinning. Are you? Oh, this will be the third lucky person. Dari Otak. Well, we have your name with us here. Congratulations once again. You will be contacted by DDTC. Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, this comes to the end of our agenda for today. I would like to say thank you for coming to our grand launching of the DDTC Indonesian Tax Manual 2023, uncovering Indonesian tax regulations through a digital platform. We cannot wait to see you utilizing our ITM. Thank you and have a good day. Bye.